Welcome to another episode of Croc Talk. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And today we have all things running backs with my guy, Damian Parson, DP NFL from the Croc Report. All right, and there's nobody else better to talk about running backs than my guy. All right, so with no further ado, well, actually, first, let me get this link out. Get this link out to everybody. Actually, I'll just bring them on, man. DP, you there?
Yes, sir. What's going on, brother?
All right, what's up? All right, I'm about to send this link out, get everybody in here. All right, and then we'll get to talking about your expertise.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Here we go. All right, my guy. Did you win the Super Bowl? Somebody asked, did I win the Super Bowl? I did not. I lost.
I lost. I texted you and told you not to lose, bro.
I know. Yeah, that's my third Super Bowl I've lost. I've been really good. I've been a great user this year. I'm at the top of the leaderboard, but I've been to who is that? Because I've won 2 Super Bowls, so I've been to 5. I've lost 3.
Yo, listen.
So I'm kind of like the LeBron James of you know what I'm saying right now. You know,
we gotta get you that Tom Brady status, bro. We gotta get you more wins than losses. You know.
I know. Speaking of Tom Brady, since I mean you're a Patriots fan, so what's it like? And not saying that you have any ill will towards Tom Brady or anything, but kind of watching him still like be at the peak of his powers for another team, which I don't think anybody ever saw that coming.
I mean, for me, man, it was like I spent so many years defending him, like the whole Bill versus Tom debate. So many people would call him a system quarterback. People really didn't understand like the ins and outs of what went on with that offense, man. Just people wonder, could he throw the deep ball? I'm like, well, you know, I said this on the live stream. I'm like, you can't throw an 80-yard bomb to a 5'11" slow white slot receiver. Like I'm just
right.
I'm like, I don't know what you expect him to do, but for me, it feels good to see him go out. And I knew he was going to leave because he was frustrated with the weapons. He wasn't, him and N'Keal Harry never got going. And, Amendola was gone. Edelman was starting to show like inconsistency with his hands and dropping key passes. And it was mainly just a run game that was working. But again, as you know, as a former DB, defenses tend when they know that you don't have the receivers to threaten vertically, what are we going to do? We're going to get in your face. We're going to press you. We're going to play physical press man coverage and make you throw the ball downfield and take away your run game. And that's what teams started to do towards the end of Brady's last season with us. So seeing him go into that offense where people thought he was going to pretty much fall off the face of the earth and take them to a Super Bowl. Tom Brady is my favorite quarterback of all time. Cam Newton the second. So, like, for me, it's just like it was validation to try and explain to so many people for so long. Like, man, he's not a system quarterback. He's the biggest piece of the system if he's not the system itself.
Right. So, yeah, I know it was just me watching it and just seeing him when – I mean, if we're being honest, his last year, it didn't look great, like just from an ability standpoint, right? And
yeah.
It's kind of how it ended, and you had like that pick 6 at the end of the playoff game, and it's just like – damn,
he was frustrated. Brady was frustrated, man. He's used to guys knowing how to win one-on-one. And when you look at that receiving core, we had no tight end. Like I said, N'Keal Harry is just we don't know what he is right now. Like even now, going into year 3, we still don't know what he is. So Brady wasn't really meshing with that at all because you look at when he clicked with Godwin and OJ Howard and Mike Evans and even the young kid, Tyler Johnson, that came out of Minnesota, he came in and performed solid with Brady with very little mini camp or training camp, no mini camp, no OTAs, things like that in person. So it kind of raises the eyebrow that, looking at N'Keal Harry is like, what's holding you back? I mean, I wasn't a fan of the pick in the beginning because I felt like there were better receivers on the board. Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, the list goes on. And I felt like he was a day 2 type of talent that wasn't a number 1 receiver, but and I remember I think you did a thread on him for this tape and trying to show people that he wasn't a good route runner like
I
that.
got a lot of pushback. I got a lot of pushback.
Listen.
So listen. So I got a lot of pushback on that, and I was
Uh-huh.
trying to tell people and kind of warn them about N'Keal Harry and kind of what his skill set was. And it's funny because now the narrative has completely changed. So the 49ers drafted Demo Lenore, cornerback out of Oregon, and I posted a couple of clips of him locking up N'Keal Harry. And the response I was getting consistently was, well, anybody could lock up N'Keal Harry. Anybody could
total
do it.
different response.
And it's like,
years ago.
You guys were not saying this when he was coming out of Arizona State. Like this, like I got a lot of pushback. I didn't have him in my top 5. People thought I was crazy. And it's interesting. Hopefully, he continues to develop. I know I heard Cam Newton say that he kind of has struggled a little bit with like the culture of the Patriots, the Patriot way and whatnot. So we'll see how that whole thing goes. But we're going to get into talking about these running backs. That's your expertise. And your team, I don't know, they've been kind of up and down a little bit with their running backs, kind of or drafting them at least. Drafting Sonny Michel, it seems like it hasn't worked out as well, especially as I thought it would. I thought Sonny Michel was dope. But the first thing I want to talk about is the running back position has kind of been devalued. And there were 2 running backs that went first round, right? You have Travis Etienne, and the one that was first off the board was Najee Harris.
Right.
So one, I guess I'll ask first, what are your thoughts about the position kind of being devalued the way it is?
I mean, and I put up a tweet about probably a couple months ago. It's going to happen to the receiver position too, because it's becoming over flooded. Because it's only 32 teams, and teams are using 1 to 2, maybe 3 backs, depending on their philosophy. So it's so many backs coming into the league and variety of talents. So it's like, okay, next year is going to be even wilder with the talent they have in next year's class, which I'm already studying next year's class too. So you look at it as like, okay, Pittsburgh needed a running back. Technically, the Jaguars really didn't need one. They just went ahead and paired Travis Etienne with his former teammate in Trevor Lawrence. And it's like, listen, we're going to help make you a little bit more comfortable as a rookie. But yeah, I mean, like you said, looking at the way it is right now, there's so many backs still even in the league right now that you can get solid production out of, that teams are like, well, I'd rather wait. And right now, me covering the Arizona Cardinals for Raising Zona, they brought in James Conner. I was like, I wasn't really a big fan of the move. I was just like, guys, if that's the case, you should have just kept Kenyon Drake and bringing him in. You got Chase Edmonds there, and it's just like Kyler Murray needs a running game to help that RPO, that play action pass. And I mean, James Conner is going to be solid. They get in the red zone. He can, get those touchdowns or whatnot at the goal line. But just as a fit, I wasn't a big fan of it. So I was hoping they would grab a Kylan Hill out of Mississippi State late, or even a Kenneth Gainwell late. No, I think they went through the entire draft because they didn't have much draft capital, and they completely bypassed the position. So some teams believe, especially with running quarterbacks now, I mean, look at Lamar Jackson. He's almost a de facto RB1 for that offense. So that's kind of where I see it. There's so much talent coming in at the position, and everybody just rather just wait and feel like they can plug and play at that position.
My bad, I'm having a little bit of connection issues. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good. Yeah, I get you.
All right. So sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi. I had the guy come through and check it today. I'm like, man, my Wi-Fi, I'm like, when I'm streaming, it keeps dipping in and out. He was like, well, use the 5G one and you should be fine. And take every other thing, because we run our own house through Wi-Fi. He's like, take everything else off of that one. So I'm like, all right. So I did that, and still it's like, well, I'm still having issues. But so regardless of that, you had a couple of questions here. And this must be a fantasy question here. Y'all buying Etienne as strictly the third down back? Maybe that's not a fantasy question, but just a question in general. Are you looking at him as someone who could possibly carry a load, or do you look at him as someone who, he's going to be strictly like a role, third down, maybe, just used as a receiving back more? Or do you think he's going to be a guy that's going to run between the tackles and, kind of get some tough yardage?
So when I actually posed this, because I had a gut feeling that they were going to go ETN, because I was like, man, I was hearing some things that Jacksonville was looking at a running back, and I was like, would they really go running back high? And they went first round. It was just like, okay, so this is where y'all going with this. And a lot of people were like, well, goodbye to James Robinson. I don't think so. What I think we may see is New Orleans South, when they had Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara, you had Thunder and Lightning. They could share the field. You use Travis Etienne like Alvin Kamara. You use him in the screening game. You line him up in the slot, give him some jet sweeps. He's explosive. That's his game. He's better in space and on the perimeter. I'm not a big fan of his vision or his footwork between the tackles, because you have to have nimble and light feet to run between the tackles, because there's a lot of trash in there, a lot of wash. You got guys' ankles, people on the ground. You have to be able to tiptoe and move around and maneuver in that tight quarters. But because me personally, Etienne was my top, because I like to separate backs in terms of scheme. He was my top zone blocking scheme running back. I would have loved him to San Fran, because I felt like you get him going east and west. He's pretty much pressing the perimeter, and the hole opens up, and he hits it. And I think that's best for him, rather than trying to run him inside, ton of inside zones and trap plays and things like that. You go back to his tape, is a lot of things are kind of open for him in terms of the rushing lanes, and the alleys are open. There's a lot of space, and it's like a Ferrari. It's literally like parting the interstate for a Ferrari and letting it hit 0 to 60. And that's his game. You don't want that Ferrari trying to go in and out, weaving in and out of traffic, because that's not going to give you the best ride out of the car. So that's what I think is going to happen with him. Use him like Alvin Kamara. Like, they could share the field. He doesn't have to be just a third down back. He may not get the 25 carries, but he is going to be an integral part of that offense. Oh, I can't hear you. Nope.
My bad. I had myself muted. So
okay.
I was really curious to just kind of see, like, why would they draft him there? I was so confused by that. One, the running back position is already kind of devalued. Two, you just had a guy that was like I don't know. When did Robinson did he even get drafted? Was he undrafted?
No, he was undrafted.
So you had an undrafted running back rush for over 1,000 yards. And so you're getting production out of him. Guys are like really high on him, especially going into year 2. And it's like, nah, I'm gonna draft a running back first round. I just thought that was a little odd. Like, what do you think about the value of that? Already having a back that's over 1,000 yards and using a first round pick on another running back, when you can use that pick to build some more, get your quarterback an offensive lineman, or add another player to your defense, and kind of even load up on defense. Because I know second round they ended up drafting Tyson Campbell, but it's like, whatever. Okay, we got Campbell, but we can draft something else. Like, did you think that it was like a necessity to draft a running back right there, or did you find that kind of odd as well?
It was, like I said, I had a gut feeling they were going to go running back. I just didn't think they would go first round. I expected them to use their first, second rounder to take Etienne. I thought they would have went with another position of need at the end of the first round with their second first round pick, but they went Etienne. The one thing I've noticed is, we all know it all comes down to money, right? Teams don't really want to pay running backs unless you're elite. So it's like, okay, if I can draft another back, I keep them both healthy, and it gives me the best chance of having a better, more well-rounded run game. Then when it comes down to, okay, one of these guys want to get paid, well, I'm going to let one of you walk, and then I'll draft another guy to back up the guy here, and just keep that cycle going. I think it was Bucky Brooks was like, the way he views it and he sees it going is that some teams are going to draft a running back in the first round every couple years, because you get with that 5 year with the 5th year option, so that's 5 guaranteed years in that contract. Then if he's still good after 5 years, you franchise him. After that, then you let him walk, and then you just draft somebody else. It's a crazy cycle. They run running backs into the ground, like, you see what happened with Le'Veon Bell. We've seen it happen with a lot of guys. Frank Gore, the inconvenient truth himself, he is an anomaly. Like, him and Adrian Peterson have 1 million carries, and they're still churning along. And other guys, they start getting broken down with just 200-300 touches a year, and these old guys are still pushing it, still healthy and everything. So I think that's really, like, when I saw that pick, I was like, yeah, this is a pick for the long term. They're going to pretty much use them both, keep them both healthy. And again, when somebody says, hey, I want my money, he was like, well, you're going to find out on the open market, because we're not paying you.
Right. So Najee Harris, all right, because we talked about how there wasn't not one, but two running backs taken in the first round. Now, I understand it more for Pittsburgh, even though I still, there's just the value of the running back. Like you said, like, I mean, these guys, it's like they get their first big contract and then all of a sudden they just kind of fall off, right? We're kind of seeing the trend of that. So what do you think about even Pittsburgh using really a high pick on a running back? Although, I mean, I think if I am going to spend the first round pick on any running back, it definitely would be Najee Harris. I look at him as a 3-down back. I think he does everything very good. I feel like I think his running style, like in the sense of like how elusive he is a little probably underrated.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's like a big home run hitter, but I think he just does everything well. What did you think about just the fit for Pittsburgh and Najee Harris?
One of my homies is a Steeler fan. He kept hitting me up. He's all the way leading up to the draft. He's like, man, where do you think we're going? I was like, I think y'all going Najee Harris. I was like, I just have that feeling.
Just made sense, huh?
It made sense. It felt good. And he looked and played like a Steeler. And that was the one thing they've been missing since Le'Veon Bell, a true number one running back. James Conner, he was serviceable that first year. He took over for Lev Bell when Lev Bell pretty much sat out the season. But Conner was not healthy. He continued to get banged up, and it just didn't work after that. So seeing Najee gives them everything they need. They give them a between the and I like I said, I always talk about schemes. To me, Najee is a scheme transcendent type of runner. I could put him in the zone scheme. I could put him in a gap man scheme and run him up the middle. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, when I was talking about ETN with his footwork, Najee has light feet for 6'1", 230, 235, wherever he's listed at. His feet are extremely nimble and they're quick. And I actually put up it was a play, I think it was against Ole Miss. My slogan is slow to, fast through. And, for me as a running back, I on that play, it was a dub. Listen, one thing I always tell people with running backs, as a running back myself, you got to know what the offensive line is doing. You got to know the blocking scheme as well. So if you know, okay, it's B-gap power, but I have my center and my left guard combo blocking, that 2 technique, I know they're going to get him out of the way, and one of them going to release up to the second level. I need to be quick, but be persistent as well. Just kind of taking my time with it. Let the blocks engage. Let them go ahead and move that guy out the way, reset the line of scrimmage, and then I hit it. On this particular play, Najee pressed the B gap to the left, and he legitimately, I call it displacing and replacing. He saw the 2 overflowing second level defenders. He forced them to commit, and he broke it to the right and bust through the I think it was the C gap on the right side. There was no one there. He took it to the house, and that's what I always call it second level manipulation, manipulating those defenders on the next level of the defense. Because at the end of the day, if your O-line can handle the front 4, you have to, with your body, with your eyes, everything else, have to get those linebackers and those box safeties out of the way. Get them out of the way. You want to displace them, then replace them. Wherever they move from, that's where you want to go because that's a vacated alley. So with Najee, he's soft hands. I think you go back to 2019, and we talked about that months ago when we first started the Croc Report podcast. Him versus Patrick Queen, wheel route up the sideline. Tua puts it up there. He tracks it, and legitimately, he looked like a tight end. He looked like a tight end going up against a linebacker that was outmatched. He beat him to the spot. He tracked the ball well, went up with confident hands, attacked it at the highest point, came down with it. And that wasn't the only time he threw a fade to him. They did it a couple more times. And it's like, that lets you know this cat can be special. And my comp form was Matt Forte. So when I look at what Pittsburgh is doing, they knew they needed a running back. They knew that Lev Bell, what they lost in Lev Bell, they have not recouped yet. And that offense was kind of faltering because of it. Because I think Big Ben led the league in like passes per game or somewhere in that realm last year. He threw the ball a lot. And they don't want that. His arm is deteriorating. Father Time is undefeated. And Big Ben is starting to feel that. So it's like, why do I have a 38-year-old quarterback who's declining throwing the ball 40 times a game? Let's get the run game going. Let's get some play action going. You want to do the quick hit, that's fine. But give the defense something. Let's keep the defense honest. And teams didn't have to worry about their run game. I think they were one of the worst rushing teams in the league last year. So I think it's a good fit for them. Like I said, I just knew that was the pick. If he made it past Arizona at 16, I was like, oh, no, listen, nobody else is going to take him. It's going to Pittsburgh. He's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And like I said, when you look at him, you look at his play style, physical, aggressive tone setter, he fits the mold.
And I watched a lot of him when he was in high school. I went to a couple of his games, but I used to see him on the 7-on-7 market, and he was out there running routes and catching passes like he was a receiver. So to kind of see this grown ass kid and his skill set kind of translate over and him do as well as he has in the passing game, I'm not surprised at all. But speaking of surprises, were there any surprises that you saw? I mean, there was a lot of, I don't want to say hype, but there are a lot of guys that people were kind of talking about in this draft, and I saw maybe some of them go a little bit later than some people expected. So,
Right.
what was like a big surprise as far as like running backs going off the board in the draft?
So not exactly where he landed, like as in like what pick he was drafted at, but the team, Javonte Williams from North Carolina. He went to Denver, and that was a shock to me. And I think Denver actually moved up for him because I was expecting him to go to, Arthur Smith didn't have his back of the field. He didn't have his Derrick Henry in Atlanta. I know they brought in Mike Davis. He's a serviceable veteran, but you don't have your long-term running back for the next 4 or 5 years, your stud number one that he's used to. So I was like, okay, Atlanta has to be the team. If not Atlanta, I was thinking Miami. Miami passed up on Najee so that they can draft Jalen Phillips to add to their pass rush. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. When I had Kyle Krabs on the podcast, that was kind of the way he saw it too. He's like, I'm telling you, I think it's Jalen Phillips. They're going to go, receiver and then DN edge rusher with the second pick in the first and bypass running back. So, and that's exactly what they did. So I was like, okay, Miami might get him. I was thinking the Jets bringing in Zach Wilson. They don't have a number one running back. So seeing Denver come up and get Javonte Williams, knowing that they have Melvin Gordon, I was like, man, like that's big time. They really, I think that kind of spells that the exit, the end is near for him, for Melvin Gordon in Denver. Whether it's this year or next year, he won't be there too much longer. And Javonte will be the top back. But that was a surprise for me because that wasn't a landing spot. I even think that's not even a position I thought they were going in the first couple rounds was running back. I was like, Denver wants a running back? I was like, okay. I mean, I could have seen them replacing Philip Lindsay with another scat back later on in the draft, like a Puka Williams or somebody like that. But to see them go with Javonte Williams, that lets you know that they are gearing up, giving pretty much, to me, that symbols, hey, Drew Lock, we're giving you all every piece of the car that you need to drive. We're giving it to you. We're giving you running backs where, you got a solid O-line. The defense is going to be stout this year. You have plenty of receiving weapons. There's no excuses for Drew Lock in 2021. Like there isn't, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're going to run the ball. We'll give you some play action. So that was definitely a surprise for me. The other surprise, to be honest with you, was Kenneth Gainwell. Not so much him where he fell to, but the fact that he went to Philly, I was like, wait, Philly already has Miles Sanders, and I was like, I mean, granted,
Boston Scott,
Boston Scott or whatever. Like they had running backs, right? So it was just like for me, I was like, this wasn't really it wasn't a need. But then when I look at it as an aspect of, you could see both Sanders and Gainwell sharing the field. And especially in dual back, split back sets with Jalen Hurts, you can get some triple option going. You can get a lot of different, get real. Like Jalen Hurts said on, who was it? I forget the coach's name. But he was like, I'm gonna get freaky in open field. That's what they can do. They can get real freaky with their play call, and then Gainwell can line up in the slot and play a little slot receiver, run and get him matched up on some safeties and some linebackers. Use him as a chess piece as well. I think it's a fun landing spot. It just was a shock to me because I didn't think that they would go. I think that's not where I thought he would fall. I really thought New York was probably going to take a stab at him for the Jets. Again, Arizona late is another landing spot. Him in that offense with Kyler Murray and Rondale Moore and AJ Green and D Hop would have been a lot of fun. But those were my two surprises really when it comes down to the running back position.
So a surprise for me was the 49ers taking Trey Sermon in the third round. I was not expecting the 49ers to take a running back at all, let alone two. But kind of for the people in here, that are interested in, the 49ers and what they got going on at the running game, what can they expect from Trey Sermon? Like, what's your scouting report on him?
So Trey Sermon, like I've tweeted a few times. I love the fit mainly because he's a zone. He can play in a power scheme, but he's at best in the zone. He's very patient. You turn on the tape of him at Ohio State, you see them getting reach blocks, getting up to the second level, and him allowing his offensive linemen to do their job and get the work done. Open up these lanes for me. But one thing I love with running backs is I like to see if you can string together movements. So, okay, jump cut to one lane, stiff arm a guy, spin off a guy, and get in and get busy in open field. He's able to do that as well. He's not a burner. He's not going to have that 4.5 force, 4.4 type of speed that's going to get you the 80-yard runs, but he's patient, good contact balance. He's strong. Go back to that Clemson game. He set the tone. Like he was out there finishing guys. Like it legitimately was Mortal Kombat to him. It was finishing him at almost every run. He was giving guys stiff arms. He has a really strong core because you can see when guys try to attack him high, he's able to shrug them off and throw them off. He has good feet, a wide running base. One thing, and usually you hear this term with offensive linemen being waist benders. When you're running the ball, you want to keep your shoulders and your feet aligned so you keep that good balance. You don't want to be leaning over because the moment someone hits your legs, you're going to trip over and fall because all your weight is leaning forward. So he does a good job keeping a wide base. He stays pretty much upright for the most part. And like I said, he's got a good strong straight arm, good hands too. Out of the backfield, he's reliable. And I really like that about him.
Do you think because in one second, when you were talking about like that wide base and that running style, that kind of reminded me of Marshawn Lynch. And I'm not saying he's Marshawn. I know Marshawn had that style where he was so strong and he was so like square with everything that he did. Yes. And it was so hard to tackle him. With him, do you think that his lack of production as a pass catcher was more a product of the offense? Because it wasn't like they were like, and even with Oklahoma, those aren't like quick hitting offenses. Yeah. A lot of times they, try to do things to push the ball down the field, and the running back, doesn't end up with a whole bunch of catches. I felt like when he did catch the ball, I thought he did extremely well. We saw that in the Clemson game. What do you think about him as a potential like legit threat in the passing game? Because my comp for him was Kareem Hunt, just the way he moved and not being like a blazer, but having that size and that nice balance. But Kareem Hunt, the one thing that everybody points to is Hunt being such a great pass catcher. What do you think about him, Sermon, as a pass catcher in the passing game?
So you bring up a good point. Bringing up production. A lot of people look at it like, oh, well, he didn't have a lot of receptions. A lot of times, that, like you said, that is due to the offense, and not just the offense. I mean, when I did a film study on Michael Carter a couple months ago, I told the guys online, I was like, listen, this is where you throw out the stat sheet. Michael Carter is a weapon in open field. Sam Howell just didn't throw it to him. I was like, so you can't really blame the running back, or you won't know what the running back can do until you watch the tape to see what exactly happened on those passing routes. But I think he has a good upside as a pass catcher. Not, he's not going to be Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey out there in the slot routing guys up. No, he's not going to do that. He's going to be functional in the passing game. And it's similar to, I always talk about like Ezekiel Elliott and Derrick Henry. They're not going to run those routes, but when you dump it off to them, you get those big boys going forward full speed as a DB. That's not what you really want in open field. You know what I mean? Like you got this 225, 30-pound back running full speed ahead towards you. Like it's a business decision. So he can help in the passing game. He's solid in pass coverage as well. He's a guy who will stick his face in there and do his best to protect the quarterback. He also uses a good wide square base when pass protecting, but he's got soft hands. He tracks it well. And one thing I love about him they use him a lot on delays, where he kind of sails the block and then delays out and shifts out. He does that very well, where he drops back, looks like he's in pass coverage, and leaks out into the flats. And while everybody else is going vertical, there's nobody around, and he's good at that, getting out there, getting those open field advantageous situations. So I think to be personally honest, I think he has more upside as a pass catcher than Elijah Mitchell.
So what is your scouting report on Elijah Mitchell? Because he's someone. The weird thing I saw was like at the Senior Bowl, he was like, 5'11" or 6 foot, 218 pounds. Then he goes to his pro day, he's only 200 pounds, so he lost like 18 pounds. He's labeled a speedster because I know he had the fast 40 time, but when I was watching him on film, he didn't look like somebody that is just super bursty and running away from guys in the sense of what you think when you hear 4.3 speed. Yeah. So kind of what's your scouting report on Elijah Mitchell? Because this is a guy I hadn't heard of or seen anything on him.
To me, I think he's a 2 down back. He has more juice in terms of long speed, of course, than Trey Sermon does. But like you said, he doesn't play with that 4.3 40 speed. I didn't see that on tape either. There are moments where he outruns defenders, but he has and I meant to mention on with Trey Sermon as well and Najee. They have, for me, when I'm looking at running backs, I don't really care about your 40 time. Me personally, I'm starting to pay attention more to the 10-yard split, because I want to see how bursty you are from the line of scrimmage to like 10 to 15, 10 to 12 yards upfield.
That's what Trey Sermon was like elite at,
Yeah.
right? Like that
Yeah.
10-yard split. I heard it was like
Najee,
super high. Yeah.
Yeah, like that 10-yard, man, is so important, because if the offensive line handles that front four, front three, whatever, they handle the front, you get past the line of scrimmage. If you got the good enough burst, you blow by the second level defenders and you get into open field. Now it's a foot race where guys have to catch you rather than them being even with you and having a better angle. So that helps a lot. Well, Elijah, like I said, he's got good speed. I really didn't see the 4.3 at all myself personally. He's a developmental pass catcher. I didn't see too many reps with it when I did watch him on tape. He has a solid base. He's really an upright runner, though. Similarly, like Najee's like that too. They're very high, like high-shouldered, chest kind of stuck out. They're really high runners. You got to be careful with the Najee's. Probably be fine. Elijah got to be careful with that, in my opinion, because that's where you open because you give the defenders a bigger strike window. You got a blindside overflow defender coming from your blind side. They're gonna take you out like that. They're gonna, because you have everything wide open for him. But I think him and Trey, to me, this is all up to Kyle, though. Kyle likes he likes his 15 backs, right? So Kyle likes his 15 running backs. If he settles in on just a two running back rotation, I think Trey Sermon and Elijah kind of fit each other well, where they can kind of change the pace with them, and it will be really good, especially with Trey Lance in the backfield. Whenever he does start to take over the offense, it's going to open up a lot, especially for both of them. Their best runs to me come when I in shotgun and out of pistol, because they're the type of backs that need that extra second or two to read and diagnose and then hit it. So like certain guys can line up side by side with the quarterback, and it's fine. Some guys need to be a little bit further back, simply because it gives them that extra time, and it allows those slow developing plays to develop, where they don't have to be in a situation where they're literally rushing and about to outrun their blocking scheme. Like there's a lot of plays, especially with Trey Sermon as well, those kind of GT pulling plays, power plays, guard tackle pulling from the backside, and he just literally is just kind of trotting. And as they make contact, he blows through the lane that they create, and that's where that 10-yard split, that 10-yard burst comes in. Najee's good at that as well. We all know ETN's great at it. He's a 40-yard burst. It doesn't really matter to him. But I think Elijah and Trey for the Niners, I think you guys got two solid backs. I think Trey, to me, I know you got Raheem Mostert there and Jeff Wilson. I really like Trey's fit, and I think Trey could be that top back. The main thing for Trey is staying healthy, though. He got to stay healthy. He's battled some injuries, and if he can stay healthy, he could be pretty good in that offense.
And that's been the issue. I mean, when you start talking about health, especially with the 49ers, their backs, I mean, that's been the issue, guys, just kind of going down. And I know Sermon, especially that last injury with the broken collarbone, like I know it's a little bit more of a freakish thing, and it sucks because of how well he was playing down the stretch. Do you know, like, do you have any idea why his start to the season was a little bit slower?
So when I was watching the film from them from first game, they were rolling with Master Teague, the other back, early on. And, I don't know if they were just trying to work Trey Sermon in, but I tell everybody, man, similar to quarterbacks, running backs need their touches. That's how you really get a guy going. When, you're in a role when you get that 10 to 12 touch, and it's like, okay, it can't be sporadic, right? It can't be, okay, it's been 3 drives and you haven't touched the ball. It's like, I'm not in the feel for the game at all. I don't have a feel for the defense. I don't know how fast they're moving, if they overreact to certain things. I don't know, because I'm not out there. So early on, like, they really kind of slow cooked Trey Sermon. And then you saw, I think it was a Michigan State game, they started giving the ball more. He started catching his vibe. Then that Northwestern game, he just destroyed them.
Yeah, that was wild.
It was as a running back, it was beautiful to watch. Like he did everything. And I even put up some clips of him and just kind of watching him. His pacing is so good when he's in his rhythm. When he's in his zone, it's like I'm not gonna overrun my blocks. He's his temperament is okay. You do your job, O-line. And one thing I tell people, body maneuvering and body movement is so key in the alley, because there's the run that I put up. He takes it, and I always tell people, reading blocks is very key. When you got a solo block, so one-on-one block, you have two lanes, a two-way go. When it's a combo block, you got one lane. And that's how you really can determine if a running back has good vision, especially between tackles. Because if he reads the combo blocks wrong every time, he don't know what he's looking at. Like, it's a struggle for him. So Trey does that very well. And on that run, he's like literally sitting in the pocket, sitting in the hole, and he sees defenders in front of him, like maybe 7 yards off, gives them a quick lean, gets them to shift their weight, then he breaks the opposite way. That's next level in terms of anticipating as a runner. You got to create movement and force the defender to get out of their stance. When these guys are square, they can shoot their hips, roll their hips, and make a solid form tackle. But when you get them to leaning the way you want them to, there's a play I got to put up on my Patreon, Breece Hall against TCU. He has Trayvon Moehrig about 15 yards off in the alley. He gives him a two-step right and then left, and he leans in left. And when he leans in left, you see Moehrig shoot down, and he breaks right out. It was a score. Nobody was there. Trayvon came shooting down on his left shoulder, and he was gone. And it's like, that's why I talk about deplacing and replacing. Get these defenders out of your way. I know it's fun to see these angry runs and these truck sticks. Nah, if you want to score, would you get money for that? You got to get these guys out of your way. Make the path easier as a running back. And you're going to have your highlights where you stiff arm a guy into the second row like Derrick Henry be doing. You're going to have those. But the best thing for a running back to do, stay upright, stay clean, get to the end zone.
So and we'll end on this. I'm not like a big fantasy guy, but if you had to do like, as far as a fantasy draft and maybe a keepers league where you're drafting rookies and whatnot, how would you rank your top 5, rookie running backs, and then like, kind of what order pertaining to like, how you see it?
Man, because there's some weird landing spots in this draft class. I'm definitely going Najee.
We'll do top 3. We'll just do top 3.
No, you're good. I'm gonna go Najee number 1. I know a lot of people was like, they're worried about Benny Snell and Anthony McFarland. I don't really think either one of them like are going to take anything from Najee, because Najee can do everything basically. So I think Najee's gonna be number 1. I think they're gonna lean on him too. Especially gotta remember that's Pittsburgh. It's gonna get cold there. There's gonna be some weird weather there. There's going to be days where they're going to just run the ball and run Najee and get him as many carries, and not just carries, the screen game going. They have a plethora of receivers too. So it's kind of the situation where for Najee, I'm going to see some light boxes, because you're going to have to worry about Deontay Johnson and Juju in the slot and Chase Claypool. And then they drafted Pat Freiermuth. I mean, they still have Eric Ebron. You can't just focus on Najee. Like if Najee went to, I don't know, if he went to a team that didn't have a running back at all, and it was like, okay, we're going to key in on you. You don't have many weapons outside. We're going to send 8-man, 9-man fronts and stop you from going anywhere. But Najee's going to have, I think he's going to get a lot of work this year. I definitely think Travis Etienne he's going to be my second one, not just because of his draft stats, but I think they're going to pass the ball to him a lot. I could see Travis Etienne having 80 receptions. I really could see that. Like they're going to give him the ball in space. And like I said, Trevor already has a great rapport with him. He already has that timing with him to dump it and trust him as well. Because a lot of times quarterbacks don't like to trust the running backs that will make the catch in the flats, so they just look elsewhere. He's going to trust that. If there's nobody around Etienne, he's going to get Etienne the ball and let that speed do its work. A dark horse at 3, I'm going to be honest with you, Michael Carter for the Jets. They have LaMichael Piron, and this is all if the Jets go out there and snag like Carlos Hyde or get somebody else to really split carries with him, it could affect it a little bit. But I think Michael Carter is due for a big season in New York as a dual threat back, because he can run routes out of the backfield. He's shifty, low center of gravity. He runs hard. He's got good bursts and even solid long speed. Ran the 4.51 in the 40, and you didn't see him get caught from behind a lot. And
I think he runs faster than his 40 time.
Yeah, I think so too. So it's just like, and then you have Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's going to be there as a rookie. You don't want him throwing the ball 40 times a game, but I think they're going to instill in him, okay, listen, Michael Carter's in the flats, Michael Carter's on the Texas route against a linebacker. That should be your first read. A linebacker versus that shifty running back, I'm taking it. I'm looking there every time because if you're going to give me one-on-one, I'm going to take that. I'm going to let him shake my man, get in the open field, and I'm going to let him do his job. So I think Michael Carter is going to be the third one that I will look at, mainly because of opportunities. There's no one there. And this is no disrespect to Michael Pirine, but I don't see him as a threat talent-wise to Michael Carter.
Right. Man, you dropped some knowledge in there, man. Does anybody have like any questions for my guy DP, man? You just killed it just now, talking running backs. See some guys in here in the chat. I'm looking in the chat right now. See a couple of the homies. See John Hagler up in here. What's up, John? Crocker Report.
I'm not talking to Hag. He's the reason why we got Mac Jones.
Why do you think he's responsible for that?
Man, listen,
I still laugh at the video you sent.
Man, Hag he's been flooding either my text message, my Twitter page with these gifts of Mac Jones. I've been trying to Kyrie sage him the whole time. I'm like, take that negativity elsewhere, man. Like he's been doing it all draft season. So then now it's like I really do have Mac Jones. So it's like whatever, I guess. Like it's his fault though.
What do you kind of see moving forward with Mac Jones? Now that it's going to be a little different with he doesn't have the pure separators and really his receivers every game were really just better than the defensive players. So what do you think is going to look like now that your wide receiver 1 is Aguilar, solid receiver.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 2 or 2B is Kendrick Bourne. And he's not like a pure separate. So I think it's just those windows just shrunk a little bit. And that confidence in your guy just consistently winning, I think we're gonna see a little bit more about who he really is. You don't have the best running back in the league, who I still like Patriots backs. I think they do a good job of utilizing them, but you don't have the best. Like he had the best of everything, and now it's kind of definitely an even playing field. So what are your expectations for him? Do you think Cam Newton's going to play the whole year, or do you think there's a scenario where he beats out Cam and ends up taking over? And if he does, what does that look like?
I want Cam to play the full season. I want Mac to just kind of sit, get used to the speed of the NFL game in practices, because I don't want to see those reports of him being like Jimmy Garoppolo in practice, throwing a ton of interceptions. He was doing that in New England, and I think he was doing it in San Fran too. Yeah. So it was just like he is who he is. But like you said, those throwing windows are going to be tighter. I think the main thing for Mac is if he does play early on, it's going to have to be the run game, a mixture of James White, Damian Harris, and then our 4th round back. I know a lot of people were, thinking about Sony, but for me, Ramondre Stevenson, like 6 foot, 6 foot, even 6'1", 227, 230, nimble, big body running back, kind of gives him that LeGarrette Blount vibe that Bill Belichick hasn't had since LeGarrette Blount. Get the passing game going off the run game for Mac. Use that 12 personnel, 2 tight ends with Hunter Henry and John New Smith. The thing that I worry about, because it's going to be different. I remember people always used to question, does Brady have the arm strength because he didn't throw the ball deep? I said, no, that was mainly because of personnel. But you would see on those drive throws, that play action, plant and throw, that, up the seam to Gronk on the rope, Brady can make that in his sleep. I worry about the arm strength for Mac, especially once it gets into the cold weather, to make those type of drive, tight window throws with a safety over top, linebacker underneath. Can he put it in that hole for those 2 linebackers, to those 2 tight ends? But I think it's going to have to be run game centric. The thing about it though, like I said, I'd rather see Cam because it opens up the playbook with the pistol and the shotgun. With these backs, it gives the backs as a running back. When you have a running quarterback, that backside end has to worry about Cam Newton pulling and running. That takes one guy out of the way from me. I prefer that. Mac Jones is trying to run this RPO. That DN is like, bro, I'm not worried about this.
Right.
Like, I'm coming at you hard, full speed. I'm trying to take your head off because I know you getting the rock. So I think for me, the best case scenario for Mac is I would like to see Bill, because he didn't do it this draft, because he went defense a lot after selecting Mac Jones. I'm hoping he goes all offense next year, grab some more receivers because he didn't pay the guys he brought in a whole lot of money anyway. So I'm hoping that he goes get some top end receiver talent from Mac. Help Mac out, man. Like Mac, dropping back and throwing
do
to the
you
Kill
think
Harry
that's the
those
way?
boys.
I mean, they just invested. I mean, let alone the Kendrick Bournes and Nelson Aguilars and stuff, and obviously those guys are solid. But they also put a ton of money into the tight ends. So do you think that's more of their plan for Cam Newton, or do you think that's them kind of going back to Hernandez, Gronkowski, that type of offense, and maybe that's what will simplify things for a Mac Jones?
Yeah, I think it's going back to the way he kind of ran it with the 2 tight end set, because it does create, especially when you have 2 athletic tight ends like Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith, you can get a little creative with the play calling. You can come out in 12 personnel, look like it's going to be a base run play, shift into empty set. And one thing we used to do when we had Gronk, they would shift into an empty set, go completely empty. They would take the receivers, throw them in the slot, motion them into the slot, and put the tight ends out wide. So then it has the defense. Okay, do I leave my corner on Gronk and then a linebacker on Julian Edelman? That's a mismatch all day long. Or do I flip it, then put the linebacker out there on the island with Gronk? And it was like, yeah, this isn't really, it's a headache, especially when they would do it late in the play clock where you can't audible. I remember against Pittsburgh, AFC Championship game, I think 2017, they showed blitz. They were coming with a double blitz with the nickel and a safety off the right side. Brady spotted it. He yelled Jordan. They went to a completely empty set. Pittsburgh starts panicking. They drop into a zone. They got James Harrison dropping off to cover Chris Hogan, and it's a seam route. So it's like I could see that happening with Mac. The main thing for me with Mac is I know people talk about his intelligence and everything, and then he's a very intelligent guy. He's accurate. He's going to me, for him to be truly successful, he's going to have to master the game at an immaculate level mentally, to where he's going to be a step ahead of defenses, because he is. People don't want to hear it. People show me some clips. Oh, look at this deep ball. I'm like, listen, please don't make me go into my Rolodex of his deep passes that fail 20 yards in the air. Like, don't a good amount. A good amount of them. So it's like he's an anticipatory thrower altogether. So if he can stay a step ahead of the defense, reading pre-snap, motioning guys, getting them to show their keys and their tails of what coverage they're in. If he become that type of guy, that Tom Brady, that Peyton Manning, that Drew Brees, but before the snap, that will really help his game, because it's good. Like I said, unless I think the draft next year, which is going to be another pretty loaded receiving group. Shout out, probably wide receiver 1, Traylon Burks from Arkansas. You know what I mean? So, that's my dream. You want to play Mac Jones, go get him a dog like that. Go get him a dog like Traylon Burks. Go, get him a guy like John Mechie to stretch the field. Get him some guys, because that's really what this offense lacks. Like, I know Nelson Aguilar stretched the field for Las Vegas last year. He also had Darren Waller pulling coverage from him. That's not going to be the case this year. You don't have Darren Waller. So it's like, can he consistently stretch the defense game to game? And he's probably going to be the de facto number 1 receiver. So we play like the Rams. Do I expect him to get vertical consistently against Jalen Ramsey? Not really. So it's going to be, that's why I want that true, legit number 1, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would love a Brandon Ayuk in our offense, or, somebody like that, somebody that can win one-on-one, game to game, snap to snap.
So we have a couple questions here. So we got, somebody said, but Cam can't throw. Too inaccurate. He put a question mark there, but I think that's more of a statement. As far as Cam goes, and we all saw how he started off last year, doing very well. Yeah. And then, he got COVID, and he talked about it on I Am Athlete. He talked about just kind of, falling behind, and how the train kept rolling, and he was trying to catch up, basically couldn't catch up to what they were doing mentally, with them continuously adding things off of what they did the week before. What do you think we see a better version of Cam, like, as far as like throughout the year?
I do. Getting him into camp, like from the jump, like where he knows his playbook inside and out, and he has that chemistry with guys. If I'm not mistaken, Cam came in super late, like, and you can attest to this, being in a training camp, coming in really late, like trying to pick up everything, and then we start the season in about a month. Like that's extremely difficult to do. Not just difficult to do in general, but the Patriots offense is extremely complex. So trying to pick up all of that, not just understand the playbook and know its ins and outs, know the audibles, know the calls. I got to gain chemistry with these receivers. And as, you know, especially when COVID really first happened, guys couldn't really meet up like that. You know, you couldn't do too much because it was restrictions. You know, the only person that was trying to break that was Tom Brady, you know, going the floor. He was like, I don't care. Like, we got to throw, guys. Like, we got and I mean, it paid off, right? He broke the rules and they won the Super Bowl. Like, it kind of worked for him. But because he, you know, kind of sped up that development a little bit. So I think Cam being in camp, and like you said, I think Cam is higher on N'Keal Harry than everybody else is. I think Cam sees something in this young man that a lot of people don't see. So him as a leader, I've been to many, not many, but I've been to a few of the Carolina Panthers training camps when Cam was there before he left. And I tell you straight up, the man's a rock star. Like the team float went by his beck and call, coaching staff, the fans, everything. He was the leader out there. He was the alpha. And so I think it'll be the same thing. Max, I mean, if they want Mac to start, Mac's gonna have to win that job in camp. And I don't know, like coming in, being accurate at Alabama and being accurate in a Patriot practice against Stephon. Listen, and I've read so many reports of Brady, like he does not test Gilmore like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Him and even with Malcolm Butler in there, when we had Malcolm Butler and Darrelle Revis, Brady was like, yeah, no, I go at Revis and him and Revis, I go at Butler. Him and Butler be going at it all practice. He left Revis alone. Like, I'm not, I already had my experience with him on the Jets. I'm leaving that alone. And same thing with Gilmore. So it's like Matt going up against that number one defense, seeing Gilmore and J.C. Jackson out there, and Kyle Duggar now as a second-year pro with Devin McCourty, and now Ronnie Perkins and those boys coming after you. It's going to be a little different for him. So I think Cam, I know a lot of people worry about him. The main thing for me is just staying healthy, keeping the shoulder healthy. But his footwork, that was Cam's main issue. Just kind of not stepping into his throws, throwing flat-footed, just all upper body, and that threw a lot of his passes off.
And those are things that he's done kind of consistently throughout his career. And you would think, you know, by this time he would kind of get it and improve on those things, but he hasn't.
It's
inconsistent. You see him working and you see him grinding, but it's just something that he just hasn't really, you know, been able to improve on. But DP, man, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate you, my dog. Yes, can you let everybody know where they can find you at?
Of course, DP_NFL on Twitter. Definitely be alert. I have, of course, if you can see here, Rush Report. That is going to be that's my Patreon account that I will be doing a lot of running back like videos and breakdowns, not just of the 2022 class. I'm looking at some of the fits for 2021, some surprising fits as well, and how they may fit the offense they're going to and what role they may have, as well as the 2022 class. I'm building my Rush Report, which is an analytic and film-based model, charting run schemes, blocking schemes, all of that good stuff. I will have a YouTube called the Rush Zone. YouTube channel will be up soon as well, where, you know, I'll do other videos on different topics that come to mind, whether it's running back base, linebacker base. I scout pretty much every position. So I'm gonna have a lot of that going on. So definitely stay tuned. And of course, you can always check out my articles over at the crocreport.com. Shout out to the whole crew over there. Except for Hagler. I'm still I'm still hurt for what he did to me with this whole Mac Jones thing. But yeah, guys, listen, I have a lot of content coming on the way, a lot of running back talk, and I'm trying to get you guys prepared for your fantasy drafts, not just this year, but next year and the years to come.
That's what's up, man. Make sure you guys give my guy DP_NFL a follow. I appreciate you guys coming in here, hanging in here for almost an hour. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Croc Talk TV. Hit that subscribe button right now. Hit the like button. All right, and shoes, man. We out, man. I appreciate you. You made this hour go by really fast, man.
Hey, man, Great knowledge. It was fun, bro.
All right, everybody. See y'all soon.